What's up, everyone? Eli here. Friday evening. I hope everyone's doing well. Just got back from taking my dog Louie for a walk. I think you guys all know Louie. Louie, come here. If you don't, now you do. Anyways, back for another CD collection video. 10 more CDs out of my collection, somewhat haphazardly alphabetized. Out of the 10 CDs here, we got 4 different bands. Most of them, the majority of them, from one band specifically. So anyways, we'll start with bottom of the stack. We have the only album I own from this British death grind band. We have Gorgoroth with Only Tools and Corpses. This came out on Metal Blade Records back in 2004. This was like their second or third album. I'm not actually completely sure. It's the only one that I own from them. Sorry, let me adjust that a little bit. Only album I own from these guys. It's pretty good. I mean, I do like some death grind stuff. It's not as good as, say, Carcass, but it's also better than a lot of the kind of generic death grind that I've heard over the years. It's a fun listen. It's the lyrics are super over the top. I mean, some of these song titles are just goddamn ridiculous. But yeah, it's a good listen. They would actually become a different band. What were they called? I think they were just changed their name to the Rotted. And they would play, I would say, more of a mature sounding death metal. They would drop a lot of the grind elements, which for me, I heard a little bit of it, and it didn't really interest me very much. So they were the Rotted. I think they put out like 2 or 3 albums, and then they've kind of been really quiet. But yeah, I mean, if you're a death grind fan, if you like Exhumed, I think you could really, you'd enjoy that album. Next, this album, I have talked about this album specifically on this channel before, because I was listening to them once in a video, and I think I briefly talked about it. But we have the debut album from Gorgon with The Lady Rides a Black Horse. Black metal out of France. Really good. One of my favorite French black metal albums, to be honest. This came out in the mid-90s. I want to say like 95. Sorry, I don't see a date on here. I think it was like 95. Really, really good album. It does not sound, when you think French black metal, there's a couple bands that come to mind, and I gotta say, Gorgon does not sound like those. They don't sound like Bloodlust Nord. They don't sound like Deathspell Omega. They don't sound like Hurlorn. They don't sound like anything out of the LLN at all. They have a more riff-based black metal, even with some hints of traditional heavy metal in the instrumentation. Really, really good. I've never heard anything else from this band, but I'd like to, actually. I just have never gotten around to it. But this album is damn good. If you can get a copy for a reasonable price, jump on it. Now the next handful of albums will be from a band you might know called Gorgoroth. One of the early black metal bands out of Norway, right? A lot of people love them. They have plenty of detractors. I've always been a fan of Gorgoroth. They may not have been as experimental or as groundbreaking, I guess you could say, as some of their country mates. They would be, they would have much, their style of black metal is much more straightforward, stripped down, as compared to Enslaved or Emperor or a lot of those Norwegian bands. But I've always liked Gorgoroth. I never really quite understood, people that don't like them. A lot of people will say they're like the original generic black metal band, and I get that statement. I don't agree with it, but I do understand. I understand that statement. They play strictly traditional black metal. They don't veer from the path much, especially in their earlier days. But I mean, come on, if you've followed them throughout their career, they have experimented, and they don't put out the same album every time. I would definitely not agree with that. So anyways, I have their second album. Unfortunately, I don't have their debut. second album, Antichrist. What can I say? I mean, this is just Norwegian black metal to a T. This album, I mean, it clocks in at like just under 25 minutes. I love it. It's not my favorite from them, but I enjoy all their albums. I hate to be that guy, but it's true. I enjoy all their albums to varying extents. And I don't have all their stuff. And for as much as I like this band, you would think that I would, but I definitely, I'm missing some albums in their discography for sure. In fact, that's the only early album of theirs that I have. I'm trying to actually haphazardly get these together here. Sorry, guys. I thought I had them in order. We're going to go with, their 2000 album. Get it together, Eli, you dumbass. All right. I believe this came out in 2000. Insidious Satan. This is one of their probably more hated albums, I guess you could say. And I didn't like this album too much when it came out, but it's really grown on me. I haven't listened to it for years. It grew on me to the point where I could say that I liked it, and at this point I haven't listened to it for a long time. So I don't really remember enough to really talk about it at length. But, so obviously Gorgoroth, they went through a number of lineup changes. The album that I just showed, Antichrist, almost a completely different lineup than on this album. The only mainstay the only guy that's been in Gorgoroth from day one would be Infernus, their guitarist and one of the main songwriters. Although he was a main songwriter early on, but he would kind of step down from the songwriting a little bit, like midway, into their career. Honestly, one of the best guitarists in black metal, I think. I mean, the dude, he always has a great tone. He always just comes, he's a very riff-based guitarist, riff after riff, and his riffs are catchy. They're very memorable. I love Infernus, to be honest. So yeah, he's the only guy that's in every Gorgoroth album. Quite a few changes from, between Antichrist and Insidious Satan. In this album, you got Gall, who would be their vocalist for a number of years. You have a different drummer. You got a different bass player. I'm sure it'll say on the inside. You got Erickson on drums. A lovely picture, huh? Anyways, Infernus on guitar, of course. Gall on vocals, and Tormentor. Or no, not Tormentor. That is. Who's on bass? Okay, I guess you have two guitarists on this album. Sorry, I didn't know that. Yeah, Infernus and Tormentor. I want to say, I don't know if Frank Watkins from Obituary was in the band at this point. 2000? I'm not sure. But anyways, this would be kind of starting a new chapter of Gorgoroth that I actually like. It would take me a while for it to grow on me. After that, 2003, I have Twilight of the Idols in Conspiracy with Satan. Sorry, it's very bleak cover art. There's not a lot of color. It's hard to see on camera, but Jesus Christ, I tried. One of these days, I'll get a better camera setup with lighting and all that bullshit. I'll have better looking videos, I think. But anyways, I actually prefer this album quite a bit to Insidious Satan. It's still in the same vein. So on this album, you would have, I don't remember exactly when he joined the band, but you would have King of Hell on bass, and he would actually do quite a bit in the songwriting department. A lot of people would say he's not a good songwriter. I don't know, honestly. I thought him and Gall, when you put those two together, I thought they made a pretty good songwriting combo. I gotta say it. Those two guys would. Gall, I think, would take. He would bring in some influence from one of his old bands, Trelldom. I don't think King was in Trelldom. I can't remember, but anyways, Gall and King would kind of they had this signature songwriting style where it would be, instead of just being, straightforward, fast, vicious, riffy black metal, they would still do some of that, but they would do kind of more of a kind of a droning, and I thought they were kind of known for it. They had this kind of like droning, more atmospheric songwriting style, and it kind of was a nice counterpoint, to the, like I said, just the fast blasting Gorgoroth. I quite like that. I think some of those songs, when they lock in that, kind of droning atmospheric mode, I think it's really great. And there's definitely some of that on this album. There's also a lot of fast tracks. I mean, there's for me, there's a nice blend of, the fast and the droning atmospheric songs. So this is actually one of my favorite Gorgoroth albums. And one of the most underrated albums, I would say, is 2006 Advajor. I can never say this. Advajorum Sapinus Gloriam. Kind of generic cover art, but whatever. Candlelight Records this time around. So you still had Gall on vocals. You still had Infernus on guitars. Well, like I said, Infernus is always part of Gorgoroth. It's his band, essentially. Gall, King, Infernus. Fuck, who played drums on this? Anyways, you had the core three guys. This album... Oh yeah, that's right, fucking Frost. Frost of Satyricon plays drums on this album. Session drummer. I think that album totally kicks ass. I think it's kind of a combination of like Insipid Satan, Twilight of the Idols, and maybe even just a little bit of their early stuff. This one, maybe it's got a little bit more of the fast-paced songs, but I think just the songwriting, I think they really hit, I don't want to say a peak, but they hit kind of a different high with this album. I quite like it. I think it's one of their better albums. It's definitely one of their better, especially for their later albums. This is top tier modern Gorgoroth, I would say. Then they would have, I can't remember exactly when it happened, but they had all the court drama and Gall and Infernus hating each other and trying to gain legal rights to the band name. Let's see, how did that turn? Okay, so yeah, Infernus ended up. I believe Infernus. Yeah, Infernus gained rights to the. It was kind of funny because Infernus started the band. Gall and King, tried to sue him and basically get him kicked out of the band. And from what I remember, they almost did win, but yeah, ultimately they lost. Infernus now has rights to the band, so he would kind of come back after all that court drama. He kicked Gall and King out of the band. He would come back with this album in 2009 on Regain Records. I could never say this one either. Quantos Possunt ad Satinatum Trahant. I have no idea what that means. This album, I've kind of gone back and forth with. When it first came out, I kind of liked it, but then I listened to it more, and I kind of thought it was sort of generic. But the more I listened to it, the more I liked it. I found it very extremely catchy. It does kind of have a generic black metal sound, but it's the sound of Gorgoroth. I mean, it's very catchy. It's very memorable. I have every riff on this album just kind of burned in my brain. So with Gall and King out of the band, you had less of that droning atmospheric, stuff that they would do. There's still a little bit of that. So I think Infernus did kind of catch on, and I think he was like, that's actually kind of cool. So there's a little bit of that, but most of this is just go for the throat, vicious melodic black metal, done in the old school way. So Infernus would bring back Pest, who was arguably the best vocalist Gorgoroth ever had. He's on, he was on, like 3 of their earlier albums. So bringing back him was a really cool choice. You got Thomas Asklund on drums, who played on some of the later Dissection stuff. He was in Dark Funeral. And he was in some other Norwegian bands. I'm sorry, I can't remember at the moment. He would bring in Frank Watkins from Obituary. Like I said, I can't remember exactly when Frank came in, but I think it was around this time, actually, now that I think about it. So yeah, I mean, just having Pest back was great. Unfortunately, he wouldn't last long. Infernus would kick him out. He just pretty much lasted this, for this album. I think he did a little bit of touring, and yeah, Infernus just booted him. Which I'm sure he had his reasons, but man, Pest just brings so much to, really to any band that he's in. But he's so good for Gorgoroth. But anyways, so there would be a little bit of silence a couple years after. I don't know. I can't remember exactly when this one came out. There's no dates to be seen on this. All music by Infernus, 2009 to 2014. So maybe it came out around 2014, maybe even 15. So, okay, so there was like a 5-6 year gap. Obviously, there's always a lot going on in the Gorgoroth camp. They would come back with this one on Soul Cellar Records, Instinctus Bestialis. Not a very good album. I've listened to this a handful of times. I can't remember anything from it. None of it sticks with me. I hate to say it too. I mean, so you got Infernus, you got Adarigner on vocals. They picked up this guy. I think he's a Serbian guy. He plays in this band called Triumphal, which I think are actually really fucking good, and a band called Terror Hammer, also pretty good. They have Frank Watkins on bass. You got a couple. He's got a couple lead guitarists on here, and yeah, I think I'm gonna throw this on tonight just to listen to it yet again. But I've listened to it a handful of times, and it just, like I said, I can't remember a damn thing from it. That's all I can really say about this album after having it for 5-6 years, maybe more. Can't remember a damn thing. So, not a good thing for a Gorgoroth album, especially considering their band I really like. Anyways, hopefully you guys have hung in there. If you don't like Gorgoroth, I'm sure that was pretty boring for you. I got 2 more, both from the band Gorguts. Unfortunately, I do not have any other early stuff. I do like Gorguts a lot. Like I said, I just don't have any of the early shit. I don't have anything, honestly, until their last 2 releases. So yeah, we're going to start off with Season of Mist. God, when did this come out? Colored Sands. Really like this album. I'm sure you all know who Gorguts are. Legendary Canadian death metal. They started off playing a more, just a straightforward old school style death metal in the early 90s. They would kind of reshape their sound through every single album that they put out. They would evolve a little bit to the point where, they would become way too technical for most people. And I totally get that. So this era of Gorguts, they're playing yes, it's quite technical. It's also very dissonant. And I think it works so well for them. It's no secret Luke LeMay was very influenced by Deathspell Omega. He loves that band. He's always talking about it. He's always wearing DSO t-shirts. And yeah, he definitely took some influence from that band and injected it into Gorguts. So adding that dissonant, craziness on top of his already, kind of technical death metal just made for a very, very, very cool album. I love this album. Haven't listened to it for a while. A year or 2 after that, something like that, 2016, he would put out, well, not he, they would put out this EP called Plague's Dust. I don't want to say more of the same, but still in that kind of same chapter of Gorguts. That is what they're doing currently, or at least what they have done up to this point. Still more, and this is really cool. It's an EP, but it's like 30 minutes. It's all one song, so it's very cool. It's a very epic, dissonant, dizzying, technical death metal. If you liked Colored Sands, you're gonna like this. And if you like bands like what was that one band that was on Relapse? when I go to talk about bands, I always forget. I always forget the names. I can't. I don't remember. But yeah, there are a couple of bands kind of currently doing that. That dissonant death metal. If you like later era Immolation, if you like Portal, even, I think you'll dig this current Gorgoroth shit. If you like stuff like that, don't definitely give these a chance. Don't pass them by. Don't pass them by just because maybe you didn't like maybe you didn't like Obscura. That album's certainly not for everyone. I don't love it either, but just because you don't like Obscura, don't overlook these albums. So, anyways, I am done rambling. I have a nice, healthy stack of new shit I've actually picked up the last couple weeks to show you guys. I got a raise at work, so I kind of spoiled myself a little bit. I didn't spend a ton of money, but I bought myself some shit. I bought some movies that I had been wanting for a while, and a couple vinyl records, and a nice stack of CDs. Stuff that I'm excited to talk about, but that will be for next time. Anyways, talk to me if you like any of these bands. What do you think about Gorgoroth? Do you think they're awesome? Do you think they're overrated? What do you think about those Gorguts albums? What else did we talk about? Gorrotted. Anyone heard that Gorgon album, by the way? Fucking love it. Anyways, thanks for stopping by. Louis says hello and goodbye. We will talk soon. Cheers.